In this video, I really want to talk about kind of a power finesse technique to bass fishing that a lot of anglers, including myself, have just not picked up. And I'm not just talking about this depths cover scat. It's more of kind of a technique as a whole that is really from the Japanese. So we're gonna talk about this technique in full in this video and why I think that it's really going to play here in the future. Now, before we get into the video, this one's brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. Right now for the month of July 2024, all of my USA made sun shirts, including the one that I'm wearing here, I have 8 different colors. They are all 20% off for just the month of July. So whether you buy 1 of them or 3 of them or 4 of them, I know that if you buy 2 of them, you get free shipping as well. But anyways, they're all 20% off. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel. I will leave some links down below in the description. All right, let's talk about the power finesse technique. And I don't even know what this technique is really called. I don't even know if there is a name for it yet, because there's a number of different baits that I've seen that the Japanese will use, but it's all kind of the same technique. And so why I think that this is kind of a power finesse technique is because you use power fishing gear with this. Like I have an 8.1 to 1 gear ratio reel, 20-pound line, a 7-foot, 6-inch rod. Like this is power fishing equipment, but the way that these lures are presented, it's a very natural, it's a very finesse-like motion in the and it catches fish like crazy. Now, one of the biggest reasons that I want to talk about this was because I actually did an interview on the Bass Juice podcast with Kenta Kimura. He's a Japanese angler. He has helped design a lot of different lures. And, you know, the depths cover scat, we all kind of know about this particular lure, but there's a number of different soft plastics that are kind of these heavier, shorter, soft plastics. Some of them look just like this. Some of them have little legs on them. Whatever it may be, this technique has grown very popular over in places like Japan. And if you think about it, the Japanese are almost always ahead of us US fishermen. Like, I know that this thing has been around and people know about it, but a lot of guys just haven't picked up. Like they have not picked it up. And I think it's only a matter of time before this becomes a very dominant technique, especially when you are out there in very highly pressured bodies of water like you see in Japan. And like I said, the Japanese, they've been ahead of us in a lot of different things. I mean, they have not only brought a lot of techniques over here, but you know, they had, before hover strolling and that whole system became big, or free rigs became big, they were all fished over there in Japan for a long, long time. I mean, spy baits for a long, long time over in Japan. And so this technique in Japan, like they've been doing it for a number of years. And really all it is using a weightless, heavy, soft plastic. You know, I have the cover scat here because it's one of the most readily available for us in the US, but there's a number of soft plastics that the anglers over there have been using. And I think that the reason that it works so well is, like, again, it's a power finesse technique. You are presenting this heavier soft plastic in a weightless manner on the bottom. And so many other baits out there on the market that are weightless just get way more bites and even way bigger bites. Think of a bait like the Yamamoto Senko, one of the most popular baits of all time, has caught tons of humongous fish. The #1 way that people fish that bait is they rig it up, wacky rig, they cast it out, they just let it sink. They let it do its thing and it catches a lot of fish, and it's in a weightless presentation. These heavy soft plastics like this cover scat, it's the same thing. You cast this bait out, you just let the thing fall. You will have a lot of fish hit it on the fall, but this particular technique, you're basically working it a lot like you would, I think it's very similar to actually how I work a Carolina rig. So I'm gonna cast this bait out and I just kind of drag it. I do these little sweeps and I will even pop it from time to time. And this bait, because it's so heavy, it sinks down fairly quick to the bottom. But again, it's a weightless manner. And when you pop it, it just kind of lifts off the bottom. And this particular cover scat actually falls backwards a little bit. When it falls, again, that's a motion that bass are just not used to, which is part of the reason why I think this technique can catch so many fish, is because it falls kind of backwards at times, as long as you're giving it slack to fall backwards. But one thing that I like to do, pop it off the bottom, or just pop, 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 and then falls backwards. But the thing is that bass have not seen a lot of this. Like where we live over here in the US, there's not a ton of people that are fishing this. Even though a lot of people know about it, there's still not a lot of people that are fishing this technique. And you can fish this pretty much anywhere that you would pick up a Texas rig, or pretty much anywhere that you would pick up a jig, you know, and you can fish this in fairly deep water. Like you can fish it 15, 20 foot deep, and it's just a different action. It just is. It's just a different motion to the fish. And so many of our fish are used to jigs and Texas rigs. And I'm not saying that you can't get bit on those, but when you're fishing in highly pressured bodies of water where bass have seen a lot of those things, and you show them something like this cover scat or one of the other heavy soft plastic baits out there, man, it can really catch a lot of fish. What blew my mind is that Kenta Kimura, I think he got like second or third place in a Bassmaster Open on Lake Oneida, where he was targeting smallmouth with this technique. And the reason that it blew my mind is I have fished Oneida a lot. Like I absolutely love that lake. And when you get to that lake, it's a lot of finesse fishing. You're talking about New York clear water where you can see down 10 foot deep. It's a very, you know, highly pressured body of water as well. And he was using like heavy equipment. But the thing about this is, although you use heavy equipment, these casts, when you work this bait, I'm just letting you know, it requires an amount of patience that's more like, to me, like hunters. Like I'm a fisherman and I have a fisherman's amount of patience, but I think hunters, people who hunt, they have way more patience. Like that's something that I have learned, because I've done a little bit of hunting in my life, and I tell you what, after like 2 hours of sitting around, I'm like dying. And so with that being said, when you fish this technique, it is a very slow technique. You don't want to overwork this, because you want to keep it on the bottom. You want to keep it dragging across the bottom, hopping across the bottom. That is what looks very natural to a fish out there, but it's going to require some patience. Kenta Kimura was doing this on Lake Oneida. He said that some of his casts were taking like, because he was bombing this thing out like 4 and 5 minutes for one cast. But he nearly won the thing using this technique. So anyways, guys, I think that the heavy plastic power finesse technique, weightless, whatever that is called, is gonna just continue to grow and continue to be a really big fish catcher over here. So you might as well pick some up, get ahead of things, and start catching some fish on it. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out Fin Fishing, and I will see you guys tomorrow.